You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Mr. Grush, why is it that you refer to the phenomenon as non-human intelligence? Why deviate from the basis of extraterrestrial life?
I think the phenomenon is very complex, and I like to leave an open mind analytically to specific origin.
When you say specific origin, are you referring, can you elaborate on that for those that might not?
If it's a traditional extraterrestrial origin or something else that we don't quite understand from either a biological or astrophysics perspective, yeah, I just like to keep an open mind on what it could be, yeah.
Hello, my friends. I'm Nathan Liao. The website is watchmanscry.com. Today, we're going to talk about this new disclosure that a lot of people are wondering. What is going on with this UFO? Or actually, UFO is the old name for it. They have revised it. It's now called a UAP, which stands for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. So if you want to be up to date and not an old vintage boomer, then I guess we have to learn a new word and dismiss the word that we've had for our entire life, because UFO is what I always used. But since these objects have been seen going into the ocean, I guess flying doesn't suffice. So they changed it to Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. So that's UAP. However, that term is only 1 year old, because in December of 2022, before that, it was an unidentified aerial phenomena, which is still UAP, but it went from aerial to anomalous. So now it's unidentified anomalous phenomena. So on this program, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to get you up to speed, and I want to encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety, because I'm going to talk about the ramifications of this and what this means concerning Bible prophecy. Is it Bible prophecy?
Videos recorded by U.S. Navy personnel have added a new layer of evidence to the current national debate about UFOs. For the first time, radar images recorded inside a Navy ship have confirmed the presence of several unknown objects that swarmed around the ship for hours. I-Team reporter George Knapp here with a story that broke today on Mystery Wire.
Thanks, Brian. Over the past 3 years or so, the public has been able to see several astounding images of what certainly qualify as UFOs during encounters with the U.S. Navy. There's no question that the Pentagon has censored data to go along with the photos and videos, but none of that information has been leaked or otherwise released. That is, until today.
For 2 long hours on the night of July 15, 2019, the crew of the USS Omaha detected on multiple sensor systems unknown objects that surrounded the ship as it moved through ocean waters west of San Diego. One of the objects, a self-illuminated sphere at least 6 feet in diameter, flew alongside the Omaha for an extended period and was observed through a thermal sensor in the ship's combat center. Filmmaker Jeremy Corbell released the Navy video weeks ago and says similar events were reported by 8 other Navy ships in the same area over 3 days.
In the last 3 years, the Pentagon has reluctantly confirmed the legitimacy of UFO images captured by Navy ships and air crews, including these photos taken off the coast of Virginia and the better-known videos, the so-called Tic Tac incident and the gimbal. But other than the images themselves, there's been no release of censored data to buttress these cases. There is now.
Well, if you can write a general that long where we're at, and then the number of contacts you got, get the course and speed meters off them.
Over a period of hours, crew members on the USS Omaha, which is located in the center of this radar screen, monitored the approach of the unknown objects, as many as 14 at one point, all around the ship. 2 different radar systems watched the objects and estimated their speed.
Track 781 just sped up to 46
6 knots, 50 knots, closing in. Oh, actually 38 knots.
That one's pretty much perfectly 000 relative, right?
Yeah.
Corbell obtained the images from sources he declines to identify. The Pentagon's UAP task force considers the Omaha spheres to be true unknowns. The ships that were under observation by the unknowns were unable to track where they came from or where they disappeared to. The Omaha sphere appears to have vanished into the ocean.
What was splashed? Splashed.
At that point, it also vanished from all sensors. In one video snippet, 9 of the objects were seen around the Omaha, but 2 of them dropped off, somehow invisible to 2 radar systems.
Are UFOs in the Bible? Is an attack of aliens foretold in Scripture? And as I'm examining this thing, it is so telling of a setup, of a false flag, of a Hegelian dialectic situation where they throw us a problem and then we have a reaction and then they offer a solution. And a story like this is going to get the attention of the entire earth, because now a lot of people are having to wrestle with some of their beliefs, where they are with God, where they are with the Bible. Perhaps there's some of you that are struggling with this as well, because maybe you're saying, well, hold on a second. If there are aliens and they come from outer space and from far away, what does it mean for us here on earth with God and Adam and Eve and the creation? And that's exactly right, folks. It's going to be used by Satan to deceive a lot of people, to shackle the earth. In other words, this alien disclosure is going to be used as a weapon to lock down the entire earth in fear and in anticipation of an invasion or an attack or some nefarious thing that the aliens are going to do. So we really need to pay attention to it, but at the same time, we have to be vigilant. And every one of you that are listening, if you're a Christian, if you love the Lord, you cannot allow this disclosure to challenge your belief in God and your belief in creation and your faith in Jesus. Satan's going to try to use this to convince people that God is the aliens. The aliens are the ones that seeded the earth. The aliens are the ones who planted Adam and Eve and put them in the garden, and they've been watching over us. And folks, to be clear, this new disclosure about aliens cannot derail your faith in God. I can already see that there's going to be some of you struggling, and also there are some of you that are perhaps not seasoned Christians, so you don't have an answer for everything. And since maybe there are some people at your work or some friends who may throw back at you, hey, since they're aliens now, and aliens have now been proven, and now we know that they're real, what does that say about your God? What does that say about your faith? See, you've been wasting time. You've been chasing a fairy tale. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the things that are already happening on social media. I've already seen it. In fact, I was on TikTok earlier today, and there was an individual who was doing that very thing. He was mocking Christians, saying, since aliens are real, what does that say about your God? And then I looked at the comments, and everyone was agreeing. Yeah, what does it say about God? God's not real. It's all a fraud, you Bible thumpers. The dividing line is becoming more apparent, where we are either children of Jesus, of Elohim, Messiah. We are either his heirs and we believe that he's coming back, or we don't believe it and we doubt, and then we believe in aliens, which is a lie. Because I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this is what faith is about, folks. Because to believe in aliens also requires faith. And to believe that they went across the whole universe to come here and stay hidden and only appear over the ocean looking like a tic-tac, to believe in that also requires an amount of faith that the aliens are the good guys, and that they're here for benevolence. Since it's on the news, it is necessary that we discuss it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my position, the Bible is the Word of God. And I believe in the inerrancy of Scripture. The Bible is inspired by God, and it tells us what's going to happen. We have the book. We have the words from Him to let us know how it's going to play out. Some of you may be struggling with this, and maybe the alien thing is throwing you off. But my friend, Jesus is real. God is real. He's the creator of man. Man was not seeded by aliens here on earth. That is all a lie. Because there are prophecies about some crazy, unbelievable things that were going to be taking place on the earth at the very end of time. In fact, Jesus said that they would be so unbelievable that when people saw them, it was going to cause them to have heart attacks. They were going to drop dead because of what they were seeing. And we can find that in the book of Luke, chapter 21, 25, and 26. Let me put it up here on the screen. If you are taking notes, you can write that down. Luke 21, 25, and 26. Let me go ahead and read it. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, that means confusion, the sea and the waves roaring. So what is that telling us? That's saying that at the end of time, we will be able to look into the sky during the day as well as during the night, and we would see signs in the sky. There would be around the sun and the moon and the stars. Up there in the sky, there would be things happening that would tell us and let us know that something was amiss. And then in the next verse, verse 26, it says, men's hearts failing them for fear. That's a heart attack, folks. Their hearts are failing them because they're afraid, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Now, this event that Jesus is talking about is going to result in his return to earth. When that happens, he's going to be in the sky also. He's going to be in the clouds. People will be able to look up and see Jesus. This is a prophecy, folks. There are going to be some delirious things happening in the sky, and the earth would be in distress to the point where men would have heart attacks because it would be so scary what they were seeing. Now, if you are new to the Bible, or if you're a new Christian, or if you're new to Bible prophecy, in Revelation 19, we read about the return of Jesus, where he actually physically returns to earth. And that's what's going to happen in the future. He's coming back to earth to set up his kingdom. It's going to be a great and marvelous time, but that's going to be after Armageddon. It's going to be after the flames. It's going to be after nuclear war and destruction, and the whole earth is going to be burning. It's going to be crazy at the very end of the tribulation period when Jesus comes back. And in verse 19 of Revelation 19, so Revelation 19:19, it says, I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. That means that the people on earth are going to be able to look up and see something in the sky. And what they're going to see is Jesus on a horse. But on earth, the people below, they're going to, for some reason, want to fire their cannons at Jesus on his horse. Now, I know on paper that sounds crazy. That sounds silly, because why in the world would anyone shoot at Jesus on a horse? I mean, would you do that, folks? If you saw Jesus coming back in the sky, would you shoot at him? Of course you wouldn't. Unless you have been deceived, and unless you've been told that it's not Jesus on a horse, but instead it's an invasion of aliens. And that guy on the horse, he is the chief alien, and he's going to come down here and destroy us because he's not happy with how we've been treating the earth. So on earth, they're going to interpret what they see in the sky as an alien invasion. That's Revelation 19:19, folks. Since we have this in Scripture, and we have it in advance, and this is not going to be a surprise, then as Christians, we should put this on the table for consideration as we examine this new development about aliens in the congressional hearing. So right off the bat, folks, I don't believe it. And of course, those of you who are seasoned Christians, you don't believe it either. You know what's going on. You see the holes in this. But at the same time, what about the supposed witnesses? What about the evidence? What about the pictures and the video? I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to visit it, because we have to. And we have to be able to process it in the correct manner without letting ourselves become deceived, or worse, shrink back into the world, because now your faith has been destroyed. I don't want to see that happen for you, my friend, because God is real, and this event is Bible prophecy, and we're going to get through it. And that's why we talk about these things on this channel. This channel is about examining current events and watching them with caution to see how poisonous the events are. And I appreciate those of you who send me emails and give me testimony that these messages are helping you and they're encouraging you. Folks, I appreciate all of you, and let's get this done together. Our address is Watchman's Cry, P.O. Box 157, Priest River, Idaho 83856. Or you can go to our website, watchmanscry.com, or in the description below, there's a link to PayPal and also to Venmo. So back to the hearings. What are they? What's going on? Men in suits talking about aliens, and what's going on? What is this all about? Well, here's the Cliff Notes version. There's an individual who worked for the United States Air Force. He was an officer and a former intelligence official. His name is David Grush. He came across people over the years who told him about the UFOs. Or, excuse me, sorry, UAP. Oh no, Nathan, get with it. But you know, they're not UFOs anymore. All right, UAPs. The crafts Anyway, some people came to him over the years and they said, hey, I'm not supposed to tell you, and there was other people who were pilots. Others claimed to have seen pictures, and they told David Grush about the aliens and the top secret knowledge of beings, these creatures from another place, from another world, from outer space or another dimension or wherever they are. So David Grush was hearing about the aliens, about the ships, how fast they could go, their maneuverability, and he was told that the United States has a program that has been hiding this, and yes, the cover-up is real. The United States has been hiding it. So after he had all this knowledge and information, David Grush found himself curious, and he wanted answers. So he started asking questions to NASA and to the Defense Department and to the Pentagon and to different people that he came across, and they said, no comment. We can't tell you. That's above your pay grade, etc., etc. So they weren't letting him know what was going on, and he became more and more curious. And over the years, he tried several times to appeal to Congress to come clean with it. So finally, his request to the Congressional House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, or for short, the House Oversight Committee, finally they said, okay, we will look at your request and we will have a hearing about it. So there was a hearing on it. And on July the 26th, there was a congressional hearing, and David Grush, under oath, shared his testimony about these UFOs, or, UAP. Several congressmen and congresswomen, congresspersons asked him questions about it, and he tried to the best of his knowledge and the best of his security clearance on how much he could say. He tried to say as much as he could. There were also two other individuals who testified as well. And another individual is named David Fravor, and he used to be a commander in the U.S. Navy. And in 2004, he was on a plane and he saw one of those crafts. He followed it. I've been playing some of the footage that has come out. And while there is a lot of footage out there, these images that we have were recorded by the U.S. Navy. So they're actually official recordings. We see it in infrared, and so it's not as clear. It's a little blurry. And the thing that we have against us in these images is that they are not clear photographs. They are not 4K Hollywood level photographs or images that we are used to seeing. They're very grainy. They're very blurry. And this is what we have to go by. They shared their knowledge in a limited fashion. Actually, it was in a handcuffed fashion, because sometimes he said, I am not allowed to say that. If you really want further information, I can tell you in a skiff, but I can't say it openly. So a lot of the questions that were asked by some of the Congress people were not answered, but we were still able to get a template or a basic idea of what these things are. In summary, in the hearings, there was a few things that were shared. But during the whole time, it was David Grush sharing his thoughts with no proof. And that's the thing, folks. Nobody was there that was showing the giant blown up image of the body or of the craft close up or what the craft can do. And none of that happened. Instead, what we had was Grush, David Grush, basically appealing to Congress to go do it. Go find those pictures. Go find that information. In other words, what he really wanted to happen was for an admission to occur that they were real, and thereby opening the door for further examination. And he did that. He busted the door open, even though we had no pictures and no proof, and it was all hearsay. So the one thing to take away from this is that we had no proof given to us in that testimony. So if any of you are ever having a discussion, you're at work or it's casual, and someone says, well, so what do you think about these hearings about the aliens? Now that we know aliens are real, what do you think? What do you have to say about that? What does that say about your God? Well, first of all, there's no proof that they're real. They did not prove it. This hearing did not give us concrete, undeniable, irrefutable proof that these creatures exist. Or if they do exist, at least to narrow it down and tell us what they are. Because in the hearings, they also shared the confusion and the lack of identifying knowledge to nail down what these things are. Because the U.S. military, the Pentagon, State Department, Department of Defense, they have all these observations they have done with these. In fact, the Pentagon says in one of the videos that the craft seems to be displaying a trans-medium maneuverability. It transcends dimensions. It is able to be here and then be gone. It is able to perform aerial phenomenon that is unknown to the physics of Earth, because nothing on Earth can do this. They say that they tracked them going 13,000 miles an hour and then instantly they made a hard right turn, a 90-degree turn going 13,000 miles an hour, which is impossible in the physical realm. On social media, at least on TikTok, I've seen this. There are some who are claiming that this is an aha moment against the existence of God. Does the church have rebuttals for it? Oh, yes, they do, because there are Christians on TikTok, a lot of them, who are saying it's not hard, it's easy. These things are demons or they're fallen angels. At its minimal interpretation, we must examine this and dissect it and process it with a biblical worldview, which means we have to ask that question. Are they demons and angels? So does that mean that angels, fallen angels, are allowed to make themselves known? Does God allow them to appear and also be filmed? Because it would seem that an angel is, since they're spiritual beings, they're not of the earth. Can we take pictures of angels? Well, if that's what these things are, if they're fallen angels, then I guess so. And of course, if they are fallen angels, this is being done under the permissive sovereignty of God. The permissive will of God. God's letting it happen because we're in the end times. And of course, there are others who aren't sure, who are saying that it's an inside thing. They are neither aliens or transmedium creatures from another dimension or galaxy. It's none of those. And it is not fallen angels. But instead, they are holograms that are being projected, and someone's having fun with their little pointer pen that can do this. Are they technologies and craft that are owned by the U.S. government? Does the U.S. government have these? Do we have advanced spacecraft that can do these kind of things? Is this all just our pilots practicing in the air and then they get sighted, so then they leave and take off? Is that what's going on? Well, aside from the theory that they are fallen angels or demons or some kind of spirit or something, which do not have bodies, and that's, by the way, why they can do right-handed turns. If they're a spirit or an angel, that's no problem for an angel to do that. But if they are not those things, I have no problem believing that they are one of the crafts from Skunk Works or DARPA or any of those black budget projects that we know take place, but also that no one talks about.
There's something called like Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, good one.
What is that?
That's
lasers, right?
Yeah, I can actually talk about that one, but that is it's really bad. But you know the people that see orbs in the sky. Yeah. So what we do is we play with our own forces to make sure our trickery will work on the enemy. And those are directed energy weapons of where we do intersecting beams or focus beams into the atmosphere. And notice they're always in the atmosphere to excite the electron orbitals of the oxygen and nitrogen in our atmosphere. And it causes a glow and it causes ionization. That ionization shows up on radar and it's like a cat laser pointer. And we're making planes chase them.
That's exactly how they describe these things moving, like laser pointers.
Yeah, and so we can do it in 3 space. We can make it look like...
in 3-dimensional space.
Yeah, and we can make it look like an entire fleet is about to drop bombs on, let's say, Europe, and then just have them disappear. And they get all their planes up in the air, and we attack them from the other direction, assuming we're attacking Europe.
Who is doing this? The Navy, you said?
Somebody. Let's just say a group, you know.
And you know this for a fact.
I know for a fact. Yeah. So anyway, don't tell your guests.
A group within the U.S. government.
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it at that. Yes.
And is this something that could be seen with the naked eye, or
yes,
is this something
because
that would only...
it glows? It glows, so it'd be seeable. You can see it by the naked eye, and it would leave a radar trace. So it's perfect as a deception, and it involves the voice of God weapons that I was talking about.
Project Bluebeam.
But if you wanted to bring the world together, as President Reagan said in several UN speeches, you would have a common enemy like evil aliens attacking. We forget our differences and we fight against it.
For me, in my opinion, they are either spirits, fallen dark spirits, deceptive spirits, angels, creatures of the dark side, or they are advanced technology that we already own. That's where I stand, folks. So I have a few questions that I'm going to put on the table about this situation. Hopefully that'll help us do some thinking. Number one, why now? Why is this alien disclosure happening now? when we look at the other things going on in the world, and folks, let's summarize it all. We have high temperatures that we've never been at, or we haven't been here in a long time, and these are happening simultaneously all over the world. On top of that, we have recorded off the coast of Florida in Manatee Bay the highest recorded reading temperature of water in the ocean ever off the coast of Florida, and it was recorded a few days ago at 101 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot, and they're worried that it's killing the coral and it's doing damage to the marine life. We have flooding happening in Europe as well as in all parts of the world, in India and China, Spain, Italy. Great floods are happening. The things that the four horsemen bring, wars and disease and pestilence. By the way, Putin decided to cancel the grain deal that he had with Ukraine. For those of you that are aware, Ukraine is one of the bread baskets of the world. They supply a lot of wheat to Africa and to the Middle East and to other parts of the world. They supply a lot. So Putin was allowing some of those farmers to export that wheat to feed Africa and the Middle East and all of them. But now he said no more. He canceled the grain deal, and he said there will be no more grain leave Odessa to go to Africa, and any ships that he sees with grain on them, it doesn't matter what they are, but if they're going inside the Black Sea and they're headed to Ukraine, he's going to sink them. All the grain ships, he's going to sink them. So now we have a problem, folks, because Africa depends on Ukraine's wheat. So what that means is it's stopping now, so we have the fall and winter coming. It's going to bring more famine. So the signs are all around us. We have the war in Ukraine with Russia, and as far as updates on that, that thing is continuing. Ukraine is doing the counteroffensive, trying to regain land down in the southeast portions that Russia made great gains in, and Ukraine's trying to push them back. But at the same time, Belarus, to the north of Ukraine, Russia's ally, has now had nuclear bombs delivered to it by Putin. Did you know that, folks? Putin took nuclear weapons into Belarus, and he's taken them to the border of Poland. And he's also threatening Poland. And the president of Belarus is saying that Wagner, the mercenary group that Putin used in Ukraine, is now in Belarus, and they are assembling there, and it looks like the Wagner group may, at some point in the future, cross the border into Poland. And Putin is going to try to claim that it wasn't, Russia didn't do it, it wasn't Russia's army, and it wasn't Belarus's army. These are free agents. They're operating autonomously, so you can't invoke Article 5 of the NATO treaty and attack us back because we didn't attack you. That's a possibility, folks. I'm watching that one. I'm suspicious that they might try that one, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But back to the question, who stands to gain from aliens being alive? Is there an end game to this disclosure to the world? Is there an end game that could benefit some of the leaders of the world? Yes, there is. Well, first of all, it's going to affect everyone's theology. It's going to affect what they think about God and the universe and their faith and all of that. So that was a grenade on the faith of a lot of people that Satan just pulled the pin on. So it's going to affect that, and it's also going to solidify the religion of aliens and solidify the religion of no God. And it's also going to do this, folks, and this part isn't good. It's going to weaponize the ramifications of there being no God. So now we have this UFO disclosure. How does that play out? The people on the left are going to use it to push, if aliens are real, then that means that the Republicans' God is not real and that Christianity is not real. And Satan is going to use the knowledge of aliens that they're real and then take it even further. And it's going to turn into this, folks. At some point, the aliens are going to be used, because I asked the question a moment ago, who stands to gain? Well, the people in charge stand to gain. And the people who write the laws stand to gain. And the people who want martial law and who want to give you a curfew and tell you when you have to be home will stand to gain. Because they will then use the aliens as the boogeyman, the villain, the bad guy. Or perhaps they'll use the aliens as something that is good. So now we have the addendum of the aliens. They're going to use it in their favor. And how many of you folks can remember what Reagan said? If aliens showed up tomorrow, it would unite the world. If aliens showed up and threatened us, it would unite the world. So is that what they're going to use to get the world to come together with the mark of the beast, the new money? What if the disclosure also includes, at some point in the future, we have been talking to one of these creatures, and they are telling us that they're not happy with us because they're the ones who seeded the planet in the first place, and they're not happy with how we're taking care of it. So now they're going to punish us. So they could use it that way, that the aliens are now want to start all over, or they want to destroy us, and it's just a matter of time. Or perhaps the aliens will say that in order to save the planet and to get it back to where it's supposed to be, all of humanity needs to watch their emissions. And you guys need to watch your carbon footprint, and you need to watch how you're exploiting the resources and polluting the air, and et cetera, et cetera. Of course, the government's going to love that one because they'll want to comply with it and thus force everybody to comply with it. So that is another possibility. Or what if the alien, and by the way, when I say the alien is speaking to government officials, that can also be done by what they practice already, ladies and gentlemen. The CIA has practiced channeling in dark operations, special secretive operations. They have studied psychic involvement and psychic manipulation and telekinesis and all of that stuff. They have studied channeling and clairvoyance and remote viewing to go into the future or to go into other parts of the world with astral travel, and also to speak to spiritual beings. Yes, that's right, folks. Our government does that. There have been several programs that did this. They studied the psychic world. So when they're talking to the aliens, getting back to this, the threat, what if the aliens said that they have been scouting us? They're not happy with us because they seeded us, and now we're not taking care of the earth, and now they're looking around, and we're going to have to do some drastic things, like maybe we have to reduce the world's population, or we have to eliminate this sort of thing or that sort of thing. Or do you see it, folks? The opportunities are limitless. There could be a genocidal mandate that was brought to us by the aliens, supposedly, that the governments of the world, the beasts of the end times, will use to cull the earth. Or, here's another one, folks. What if nefarious plans were communicated to the Pentagon and the DOD, Department of Defense, and the CIA, and all of those who talk to these creatures, and they found out through hints that the creatures are not friendly. Maybe they started out as friendly, but the creatures are going to turn and are going to bring an invasion. And what if they heard from these aliens that the mothership is on its way? And actually, it's not only one mothership. There's like 5 of them or 10 of them. Giant ships are on their way, just like we see in those Hollywood movies, like Independence Day. What if that's what they say? I was thinking about this, and the reason that I thought about it is because of what Donald Trump did when he was president. He started the Space Force. Remember that, folks? The Space Force? What is that? I remember when they announced it, and I just rolled my eyes and said, oh, brother, okay, now here we have the setup to fight the aliens, so I guess it's just a matter of time before the aliens show up, because the Space Force is here to keep us safe from the scary aliens. So is the threat that's going to be communicated to us, they're going to do an invasion. Therefore, that's why we have a Space Force. A Space Force. By the way, folks, what is that? What does that consist of? The crafts for the Space Force that Trump started. What is it? To my knowledge, thus far, the Space Force is a battery of satellites with countermeasures built into them, meaning the Space Force has killer satellites that have lasers and directed energy weapons on them that are able to then shine things down on the earth and blast areas of the earth, which would allow, if these things are actually up there, and if the threat of aliens lets the Space Force put even more killer satellites and surround the whole earth with killer satellites because of the scary threats. Let's look at the evil intent of this. If someone wanted to use this idea and then turn it for their benefit, for a nefarious reason, to bring the beast or the end-time dictator ruler to the earth, whoever he is. Folks, think about it. If the U.S. used an alien threat and then said, we're going to put our killer satellites, and when they're out there, then they can see the mothership and blast the mothership. But they can also, of course, blast the mothership when it lands on Earth. So it can move around like a turret. And wouldn't that be convenient? That it would allow the United States to populate the atmosphere in the sky with high-tech, futuristic, 6th generation destroying weapons that could zap Moscow or a Russian ship in the Black Sea or in the English Channel. Because, folks, this is the United States Congress that's doing this. And that individual who wanted to have this hearing, David Grush, he's a former Air Force officer and former intelligence official. So who's to say that he's not a shill? Who's to say that this is not part of the plan? Who's to say that he's not acting? Who's to say that he's not just sharing his lines? Or who's to say that he is sincere and he believes what he's saying because he was only given privy to compartmentalized information In other words, he was told about the supposed aliens, etc., but he wasn't told about how the United States wants to have a space force and surround the whole Earth with weapons that will then threaten everybody on Earth. Now, folks, think about this. If the United States had these killer satellites all over the Earth, imagine how much power they could exude. That is the big stick of Roosevelt. Walk softly but carry a big one. Oh boy. The United States could force anyone and everyone to do what they wanted, because if they didn't, the space blast would get them. So by having a new villain, you see, folks, remember the book 1984? The villain, they needed Goldstein, the made-up villain that didn't even exist in 1984. What if this new villain, the aliens, doesn't really exist? What if it's all theater? What if it's technology from the United States that would work in the favor of the State Department and the Department of Defense, especially now with the world getting erratic? From this point on, for the most part, the world is going to accept that aliens exist, that they are here among us, and as a result, they are not going to question these creatures if they happen to show up. So if God gives permission for fallen angels to incarnate themselves and to appear for the last hours of man, the last hours of us here on earth, if God's going to allow these demon fallen angels creatures to do this, the world would think they're aliens. So it's already built in. So aliens are now on the mainstream. So what is the end game again? Well, first of all, let's pause and acknowledge something that cannot be left out of the equation for the end game. Number one, there is a God and we are his creation. Number two, there's a devil. Number three, we have a Bible that prophesies the end times. Number four, we are in the end times. And folks, since we are, will the aliens play a role? Will they play a role in the Great Deception? Are they a part of the Great Delusion? And could this disclosure be followed with an actual live image of a creature in front of our eyes? You know, we interrupt this program, all the cameras are in front of this guy, he's standing at the podium with the president, and he wants to have a few words. Just like in the movies, is an alien going to actually manifest in front of the world? I want to leave that on the table as a possibility, but if it does happen, will it be real? That's the other question. Or will it be CGI? Will it be fakery? Will it be AI generated? Will it be man-made? And if there are crafts still flying around, are those man-made drones? Do we have the technology? Or are they organic? Are they real? Are they going to talk to us? And when they do, are they going to give us a threat? Is it going to result in a worldwide policy that puts us in chains as a people? There's a lot going on. And as I said a moment ago at the beginning, Revelation 19:19 tells us that when Jesus returns, the armies of the earth are all going to gather together, all of them, to make war against Jesus in the sky, which, now that we've said all of that, now, when Jesus appears in the sky, and if in the next few years we become accustomed to aliens and ships, then if we are being lied to when the fake alien gives the disclosure that the mothership is on its way, and then the world is waiting for it, and then the president says, don't worry, we have our space force, but then it finally gets to that point, folks, where Jesus appears in the sky on his horse. He's going to be pretty bright. And when you think about it, are people going to be able to make him out very easily? No, he's going to be glowing white. He's going to be glowing with power. So this gives another confirmation, and it also paints a picture that this is how Revelation 19:19 will occur, and this is why the earth will want to fight Jesus coming back. And that is because the earth is going to be told that Jesus is an alien. And Jesus is coming in his mothership to hurt us. Now, of course, when Jesus returns, the rapture will have already taken place. And if you're of the elect of God, if you're God's child, you're not going to be here. And I'm not going to be here. But a lot of people are going to be here, and that's how that's going to play out. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know this had a lot of information, but I needed to share this because this is something that we have to now add to the equation. Now we have the aliens, which takes care of Revelation 19:19. This is why I talk about the end times. This is why I talk about Donald Trump being a potential nominee as the son of perdition. I have to do it, folks. This is my calling, and this is what I do. I have a lot more to share with you after Jesus returns. What's it going to be like? And if you have not heard that sermon, that message here on this channel about the millennium, the inheritance, the meek are going to inherit the earth, what's that all about? If you haven't heard it, I want to encourage you to hear it because it takes the tribulation period, the return of Jesus, and then it goes into what happens after the return. The building program, the cleanup program. What is Jesus going to do? What are we going to be involved in? All of those things are discussed using the Bible. So Anyway, please share this message. This is stuff to help you survive. This is stuff to help you make sense of the madness. So if you appreciate that, there's the address up on the screen. I love you folks. Watchman's Cry, P.O. Box 157, Priest River, Idaho 83856, or you can go to the description below. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, stay vigilant, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.